To order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are privileged to meet on the traditional territory of the Squamish, Lil'wat, and St'át'imc nations, and that we are very grateful for the privilege of working with these communities from whom we continue to learn so much. I would also like to say, for the benefit of the public that are attending, just a reminder that at the end of the meeting, we do have questions of clarification from the public. So a couple of tips on how to make that work well. First of all, throughout the meeting, you may email those questions in. I believe on the platform that you're using, there will be a link to an email platform. You'll be sending the emails to our Secretary Treasurer, who will forward them to us at the end of the meeting. It's very helpful if your questions refer to a specific agenda item. Our policy is that questions at these meetings should refer to a specific agenda item. So if you can mention the agenda item that they refer to, that's really helpful. And it's helpful if you can try to word your questions in as clear and succinct way as possible. And that's just so that you get as clear an answer as I'm sure you deserve. With that being said, I would appreciate a motion to adopt the agenda.
I have a motion that the agenda of the meeting be approved.
Thank you. Seconder?
I can do that.
Rebecca can.
Okay, thank you so much, Rebecca. Is there any discussion on the agenda? By the way, I'll draw your attention to the fact that two motions were added because we had motions coming out of our committee of the whole meeting today and out of finance. So I'm not sure if those count as changes to the agenda, but they are additions to the agenda. So with that, is there any discussion on the agenda? No, in that case, are there anyone opposed to the adoption of the agenda? Great, we'll call that carried. Thank you very much. And we have two sets of minutes to adopt or accept rather, before we begin the rest of the meeting.
That the minutes of the board meeting held on January 13th, 2021 be accepted.
Thank you. Seconder for that one? Thank you, Celeste. Was that your hand I saw, Celeste? Thank you. Is there any discussion on those minutes?
No.
Anybody opposed? In that case, those minutes are accepted. And finally, the summary minutes from the in-camera board meeting.
That the summary minutes of the in-camera board meeting held on January 13, 2021 be accepted.
Thank you. Seconder for that. Thank you very much, Ian. Any discussion? All in favor? Or sorry, anybody opposed? Thank you. I will just make a note for the sake of the trustees that my screen does not display you all. So the hand signals that I'm seeing when people are seconding are working fine for some of you, but they won't work for all of you. So it's probably a good idea to speak up. And with that, we'll go down to part 3 of the agenda, which is announcements. And under the heading of chairperson's remarks, I have none today. Actually, I'm going to change that. I have one, which is to once again, as I have been for the last almost 11 months, been thanking our staff, all of our employees in the district, for the amazing job they're doing in order to make schools open and safe and indeed effective for our students. Thank you so much. There won't be anybody in the system who is not working above and beyond the call of duty in order to make this happen. And on behalf of the board, I want to make sure that people understand we appreciate that. So with that having been said, we'll go to trustee remarks. Are there any? Okay, superintendent's remarks.
Thank you. Just 2 quick remarks. One, just I wanted to, excuse me, thank all the families for registering your new students and many new kindergarten students for school through our new online process. And we look forward to meeting all of you and your young ones in September. And I just would also like to reiterate Rick's words of thanks to everyone in SD 48 learning community at these times for supporting each other with such kindness. And there's so many great stories about that, and for following all of the COVID safety measures so we can ensure that we keep each other safe. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Lisa. And Secretary Treasurer's remarks.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. And going down, we do not have delegations, but we do, thank goodness, have a presentation. I say thank goodness because it's always our favorite part of the meeting. So Madame Paquette's class is apparently building community flower boxes, and we'd love to hear about them. And I'm going to pass the meeting over to whoever is speaking on behalf of that presentation.
She there?
Yeah.
Sorry, just before we just
Turn off your sound.
sorry, just before we begin, I've been tasked with sharing this presentation, which I'm honored to do. Okay. However, Archie says I've been disabled to share my screen, so I just need you to enable that so I can get the first slide up.
No pressure, Chris. No pressure at all.
Good to go.
There we go.
Very nice. Ha.
There we are. So take it away and tell me when to advance to the next page.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
students, you go ahead with your presentation. Are they on mute?
Start, we would like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Scohomish Nation.
Gosh. Sorry, folks, we just need to increase our volume for you. We're very excited.
Yes, we are.
No, we can't be seen. Sorry.
Hello, good evening. Before we start, we would like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Scohomish Nation. We are some of the leadership students from Madame Paquette's grade 6 class. My name is Lauren.
My name's Alyssa.
My name is Lula.
My name's Estelle.
And my name is Leah.
These past couple months, us leadership students thought that our school garden boxes needed fixing. So we went to work. Here's the process on how we made it happen.
On a sunny day, we decided to go outside and weed the garden boxes. We found spiders and even potatoes. Then we measured the old boxes and went inside to do the math on how much wood we needed. Leah, Estelle, and Alyssa worked together to figure out the math. It was difficult, but they did it.
We made a budget of everything we would need, including soil, seeds, nails, and compost, and then we found the final cost. We also looked
Okay,
at
guys. Oops, sorry to interrupt. I think we need to have the slides match.
oh
So you
yeah.
can see next slide.
Next one.
About that. Oh my goodness, you talked about that.
Or two more, I think.
Two more.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
no, one more.
One
There.
more.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
We made a budget of everything we would need, including soil, seeds, nails, compost, and then we found the final cost. We also looked at what seeds would be ideal for the seasons to come.
Then we wrote a letter to Miss Cho for permission to build the new garden boxes and have the money for all of the necessities. Once our plan was approved, we asked our community to donate materials. We received wood from a local business, Fraser Wood. And also here on the slide, this is the wrong letter, apparently. I'm
This
so
is
sorry.
the Christmas letter.
I write a lot of letters.
Next slide.
A student's parent from our class volunteered to help us construct and deconstruct the new and old garden boxes.
We learned how to use different tools such as a spade, a hammer, a screwdriver, an angle, and a sledgehammer. And a drill.
I bet you we need to move slides ahead. There we
And
go.
one more.
One more. We will continue to build the other garden boxes for the rest of the school to learn about plants and the growth of our ecosystem.
We hope to leave our mark at ESQE and create a new chapter for our school. Thank you for your time.
Any questions?
Great presentation. Thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to ask the trustees if there are questions. So go ahead, trustees, just speak up if you have a question.
So how many kids have been working on this project? Is it just one class or is it a couple? Is it all the leadership group?
It's just our class.
It's the grade 6 class to leave a mark here at SQE.
So that's 28 students.
Yes.
Very nice. I wonder, any other questions from trustees?
I was just wondering, I heard in your presentation, you said that you were working with members of the community. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like?
That was my dad and his business, Fraserwood.
Terrific. And did you enjoy having people who were other people besides your teachers coming in to work on projects with you too?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Nice. That's really great. It shows nice community connections. That's lovely.
Go
ahead.
What is the goal for planting? What kinds of things are going to be planted?
Well, we were hoping for flowers, lettuce, and different type of vegetables like kale and radishes,
carrot, potatoes.
Okay, well, that's awesome. And what do you think is the plan for using those vegetables?
Maybe to cook with them or to be able to learn about them a little bit more.
To learn about different plants and growth.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Cool legacy.
I'm wondering if one or more of you students could comment on what you think the most important learning that has occurred for you by doing this kind of project.
Well, I liked like learning about what types of plants we could plant and stuff,
and being able to have the trust and the opportunity to be able to look up what we thought would be the good seeds and finding out how to do like our own math and writing our own letter.
Yes, I did really like the measuring part of the old boxes and finding out the final cost for all the seeds, soils, and different things that we needed.
Yeah, I liked to look up the different things and the different soil and nails and wood, and we would find out the cheapest options for the most amount for the cheapest option.
Ah, very nice. It sounds like some lifelong learning to me.
Yeah. Leah's dad's, a few of our students were able to make the first garden box, and I'm sure they had very much fun of experience to learn different tools in a safe way.
Yeah.
Are there plans to make more garden boxes?
Yes. We're probably going to do all of them.
Oh, wow.
They are very old. The wood is rotting, and we thought to build a new one.
That's great. They look impressive.
Are you going to be able to reuse some of the soil from the old boxes?
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff or students? I mean, staff or trustees?
Great job. Great job.
Let me thank you very much for attending our meeting. As I said when I introduced you, it's always the most fun part of our meeting is to have students and teachers. And I also want to thank any of the staff members. I see Ms. Cho sitting there and any of the other staff members that are working so hard in order to provide this kind of so realistic real world learning for our students. we're very grateful to see the ed plan be so effectively exemplified. Thank you.
Yes, we're very grateful for Miss Cho as our principal.
Madame Paquette as our teacher.
That's very nice to hear.
Hey.
We are
Well
too.
done.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Great job, ladies.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks.
that takes us down to, oh, there they are. Hello. Trustees and staff, that takes us down to number 7, board committees. And the first one is the committee of the whole. As you will recall, because I think you were all there, we discussed BCSTA, AGM, and provincial council, just some logistics there. And we also discussed our board self-evaluation plan. And there's a motion coming out of this committee, I believe, and I'm not sure if we're dealing with it now or if it's later on the agenda.
It's a little bit later on this agenda.
Yep, thank you. And but there are some minutes from the January 13th meeting to accept if someone can make that motion.
That the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on January 13th, 2021 be accepted.
Thank you. Seconder for that one?
I can second that. It's Cynthia.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. And is there any discussion? And is there anybody opposed to accepting those minutes? Okay, that's carried. And out of policy committee, I'll let the chair of the policy committee make that report.
Okay. It was a pretty quick meeting. We had a number of discussion items that were presented on board and operational policies that have all been recently reviewed, mostly in 2020 or 2019, with the recommendation that no changes are required. There was just one policy action item. With a receipt.
We're losing
antiquated. Oh,
we lost your audio for about the last 10 seconds, Rachel.
oh, okay.
And we've lost it again.
The one
Sometimes,
policy under
Yeah, Rachel, I can help you until you get your internet connection back. Okay, so we went over the board. Okay, so the board went over 2 policies that weren't planned to. However, we were getting some public engagement feedback over these 2 policies. So the board decided to include these policies as part of their work plan when it comes to the discussions. Those included going over policy 303, communicable diseases, and policy 501, student registration, enrollment, and placement. This was followed by going into the regular scheduled work plan policies that the board was planning on going over in this school year. And that included reviewing policy 705, security of school district assets, policy 903, community partnerships, corporate sponsorships, policy 904, land use near schools, and policy 95, use of school facilities, buildings, and grounds. So basically, the board determined that these policies, because they were reviewed recently, do not require any changes at this time. So the board, the policy committee passed a motion to have these policies as is. And the last policy that the board made minor changes to when it comes to the policy committee was policy 702, fees and deposits. And the minor changes that the board had made in that policy was removing some old language in there regarding technology such as CD, fees and stuff like that that we no longer use typically. So removing those examples from the student fees and deposits policy. And that was the policy committee.
Okay, great. Rachel, how are you doing now? Do you think, is your audio back? Give it a try. Didn't hear that.
It never left on my end, but
Okay, yeah.
thanks, Mo.
Yeah, if the audio continues to be a problem, you may want to try shutting off your video because that leaves a little bit more, a little bit more for your video, your audio to work on. It seems to be okay right now.
Okay.
So moving down the agenda, Mo, thank you for your help on policy. And moving down to the agenda, we had a finance committee meeting yesterday. We received a quarterly financial report and a recommendation on student fees and deposits, and that motion will be coming up shortly. And then that was it. There were no minutes to approve from January 31st. We did that, sorry, January 13th, because we already did that. Any questions about finance?
Rick, can I just add?
Absolutely, Mo.
Okay, so we also went over the partner group meeting plan. So for the public, that's basically our engagement that we have when it comes to getting some consultation with our upcoming budget for the 21-22 school year. So the board just reviewed the plan partner group meeting evening for that night, followed by going over the amended budget bylaw and the respective changes for the fall budget for the current year for the 2021 school year. And just to kind of emphasize that the board had their first reading in December, and now the board was just kind of out of formality doing the second and third reading and getting the details in the finance committee to do it during the open board meeting.
Yeah, thanks for fleshing that out, Mo. That's great. Appreciate your help. Any questions on that? All right, hearing none, we're going down to the Indigenous Education Council. Is there a report from that group at this meeting?
Yeah, it's Rebecca. I can report out on that.
Thank you.
So we had a meeting on January the 15th. Many of our partners were in attendance, which was awesome. We heard from our chairperson, just did a welcome and whatnot, and moved on from there. And Susan introduced our new district principal for Indigenous education, Karen LaRochelle. And Susan indicated that she'll be mentoring her for until the end of February. And then we had opening remarks from our district principal, and there's a bit of a background was provided. We have discussed the Indigenous Youth Council, who have been continuing to film, creating a film, and they've had a couple of meetings already this year, and are moving towards the film towards the 24-hour drum, and they've got some wonderful ideas that they were sharing. And we had a report out on how the district is addressing the COVID issue with our students, and how we are providing supports to our Indigenous learners. We talked about Ed Plan Insight, and just had an update from there. We're almost ready to send out our equity scan surveys, and had to figure out how we're going to work through it, as it's initially designed to be an in-person. So we're modifying it to our current environment. We heard about the numeracy projects that are happening at Signal Hill and Mamquam Elementary. Had a report out on that. And I think that's about it for now.
Sounds like a busy
I
meeting.
can tell. Yeah, it was good. It was good to hear everyone. Sure missed the in-person piece though.
Yeah.
But yeah, were there any questions that I can possibly answer?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I think it's amusing that a public official is sitting in front of a dartboard. That's all.
What are you saying, Rick?
Well, maybe this will end up on the social media blast as well.
Sorry, I just couldn't. I couldn't resist that.
That's all right.
Okay. Is there a public relations report this month, Cynthia?
No, the committee did this month.
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry about that. No, we have no report to bring forward.
Thank you. So we're moving down to item 8 and under arising.
Rick, there are minutes from the Indigenous Education.
Oh,
Council.
you're right. Thank you for catching that. There are minutes. So if someone could make that motion to accept those minutes.
Sure. That the minutes of the Indigenous Education Council meeting held on November 16, 2020 be accepted.
Thank you. Seconder for that. Thanks,
Second
Ian.
that.
And any discussion on those minutes? All right. Any opposed? Then those minutes are accepted. Thank you for catching me on that. And now we'll go down to 8, unless there's something else I missed. Nope. So 8B, information items, the ever popular COVID-19 update, Lisa McCullough.
Thanks, Rick. I'm actually going to ask Mo to do that this evening.
All right.
Thank you, Lisa. Before I get down to obviously the changes from the K-12 safety plan that were passed down to us from the ministry and the BC CDC, I wanted just to turn it over to Phil really quickly to give a quick update about Vancouver Coastal Health.
In regards to contact tracing and exposures?
Yeah, and basically their bulletin that they had on February 8th, 2021.
Oh, I don't have that one up. Okay, so just to give you, get you up to speed about contact tracing this year, this part of the calendar year since January, it's been a little bit busier. In January, there were 15 school-based potential exposures. There were 4 at Spring Creek, 4 at Whistler Secondary, 4 at Mamquam, 1 at Don Ross, 1 at Ballycliffe, and 1 at Signal Hill. And then carrying on into the first week of February, there was 1 at Pemberton Secondary, 1 at Signal Hill, 1 at Whistler Secondary, and 1 at the Highlands. And the cases in that Whistler Pemberton area were definitely related to the significant amount of cases in the Whistler area, as I'm sure a lot of you were aware of that. There were still no transmissions in the schools, and that I'd like to say that the principals and the staff all did a really good job of supporting families, supporting parents, getting good messaging out, trying to reassure everybody, and it has been, I mean, again, relatively smooth process. We did have a couple of classes or parts of classes have to go out and self-isolate as per the guidance of our medical health officer and some staff accompanying them along the way. And right now for the school year, we've had directly impacted from school-based exposures or potential exposures, 175 students that have been impacted, and 22 staff members who have all been asked to self-isolate.
Mo, can I ask a question about those? Sorry, not Mo, Phil, can I ask a question about those numbers you just mentioned?
Sure can.
Yeah, when you say 170, I think it was 175 students have been affected, that means that they were asked to self-isolate, is that?
Yeah, that's right. Almost anytime there's an exposure in a classroom, everybody in that classroom is asked to self-monitor.
Yep.
And then depending on if you're a closer contact or at risk, then they're asked to self-isolate.
So would
go ahead, Rick.
would the 175 include those who are asked to self-monitor or just those who are asked to isolate?
Just self-isolate. The self-monitor is actually something we do every single day before going to work or school. It is just asked to, make people slightly more aware or thinking about it for that period of time as well. So it does not include those numbers, but you can assume for every exposure in a school, there is at least one corresponding self-monitor letter that goes out to the class in which that exposure has happened.
Right.
So likely there's been a minimum of 36 self-monitor letters go home, probably more than that because of multiple classes and kids going from different classes in a day.
And of those 175 students, do we have any idea if any or how many contracted COVID?
0 from school-related activities.
Yep. That's what I thought you were going to say, and that's what I was hoping you were going to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Proceed. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. I think, Mo, in regards to we've been sharing, we're going to do a better job of starting to share more of the Vancouver Coastal Health updates. They give us a weekly update about where they're at with all things COVID related. Recently, there's been a section on what's been going on in Whistler, but they also give modeling information, weekly information as it comes to Vancouver Coastal Health, and all information about where they're at with testing. We are going to just start sending that out to our staff and the board if you're not already getting those, just to make sure that that everybody's on getting the same information about what VCH is doing.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Just touching on now the ministry changes when it comes to the K-12 protocols. So on February 4th, the ministry released updates to working with the BC CDC and the Provincial Health Office to update their protocols and basically provide more of emphasis on key areas of the safety plan that was approved and we've been using since the beginning of the school year. So before I get started on just what some of those changes are and what some of the emphasis items include, I want to just really quickly just say that according to the ministry and also Vancouver Coastal Health, our safety plans and all school district safety plans are doing very well, okay? And basically these safety plan changes are as a result of the latest evidence when it comes to reviewing school exposures to date in BC and basically the latest science that's being passed down from the Provincial Health Office and the BC CDC. Okay, so the second thing I want to touch on are that school districts, for any of the new measures, are required to have them implemented by Friday, February 26th, 2021. Okay, including having them posted on our website, include the most recent version of the safety plan with the changes, including having them sent or having us send a ministry a link with basically the district safety plan that has the changes in it, and also ensuring that before we implement all of the changes, we have a chance to bring by the changes with our local occupational health and safety committees, including the district occupational health and safety committee. Okay, so right now, where we are at with that is we're currently finalizing the district safety plan. We have a meeting scheduled for this Friday, with the district occupational health and safety committee. And then what we plan on doing is we plan on sending that district safety plan out to our schools next week, so the schools could work on their updates based on our updated template, and also have consultation with their local safety committees next week also. So with that said, some of the changes include when it comes to physical distancing, now getting the distance back up to 2 meters from 1 to 2 meters for anyone outside the learning group. Within the learning group, once again, we've already had this in our safety plan. However, some of the changes include just reminders about some additional physical distancing measures, like reducing physical contact and avoiding close face-to-face interactions. Note that we already had that in our safety plan, and this is just one of the items where we have an emphasis on from our existing safety plan. There's some guidance around basically physical education and music classes required to either basically go outside for some high intensity classes, and or for music classes, wear a mask while singing and spacing out a little bit more. There are some more strengthened guidelines around mask requirements for middle and secondary students and all K-12 staff. Okay, note that this does not replace the need to maintain physical distancing, as when it comes to the hierarchy of measures from the most effective to the least effective, physical distancing and all those measures like cleaning and environmental measures are considerably higher under environmental measures and personal measures compared to the masks, which are on the last of the measures on that upside down pyramid when it comes to personal protective equipment. Okay, with just some details around the masks. They're required when kids in basically those grades that I mentioned and staff are not in their workspace, meaning that if they are standing up or sitting down close to their desk in their bubble, then basically they're not required to wear a mask unless they're engaging in a lot of activities that are very collaborative and talkative, etc. Then yes, you should be wearing a mask, but for the most part, you shouldn't be. But as soon as you get outside of that bubble, that's your workspace or your desk, including in the rest of the areas within the classrooms or within the schools, including hallways, etc. It's expected that the kids and the staff wear a mask for those groups that I mentioned. Just note that for elementary school students, wearing a mask indoor remains a personal choice. And then also we must respect any type of needs from students or staff that cannot wear a mask. There's also additional changes when it comes to the health authority having a rapid response team and kind of laying out the structure for that on what it would look like for each school district within that health authority. There was also a new health checker app to help with the daily screening that's required for staff and students. And just some more areas of emphasis that we already had in our existing safety plan that we're once again just pointing out is basically things like reviewing the safety plan on a regular basis, continuing the ongoing staff training, cleaning commonly used equipment. For example, like Bazette equipment, when it's each and every time it's being used, essentially spacing in things like when you're entering or exiting the school or the school bus, etc. So those are some of the changes that we already had, or not changes, those are just some of the highlights that we just need to emphasize on our district safety plan and then also on the local school safety plans. So with that said, there's a checklist that we plan on using when we're consulting with our occupational health and safety committees. And that checklist should be aligned with all the components that are in the new district safety plan and also new local school safety plans. That's about it for the safety plan changes. And before I pass it on to Chris, is there any questions from the board about that? Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Okay, I never know where to look, so I'm going to start my video and look directly into the camera. There we go. So just as an update, at our last board meeting, we committed to providing real-time classroom access to students in our grad program. That's those students in grades 10 to 12 who have been asked to stay home as per public health COVID guidelines. And this real-time access to classes was for Q3, which generally began last week at our secondary schools. And I'd like to share that we are continuing to work with the SSTA to ensure that all those supports and guidelines in place that address teachers' needs and concerns about this initiative will be so. For example, we have a technology teacher as well as our district principal of technology and innovation, Nolan Cox, ready to assist classroom teachers with any and all tech-related needs. And as you opened with Rick, I just want to again acknowledge all the hard work of our teachers. And as always, you know, we're committed to supporting them with those extra supports. And finally, I want to add that in relation or in preparation for this opportunity to implement the initiative, we have purchased and supplied each of Howe Sound Secondary, Worcester Secondary, and Pemberton Secondary, what we're calling a remote access kits. Happy to come up with another acronym or name if that's better. What these kits are, they comprise of a teacher, a remote controlled little point and zoom camera, so you can zoom right into, let's say, a chemistry lesson, if that's what you were sharing with a student. A wireless lapel mic, so teachers don't have to worry about headsets or things in the way as they walk and move around. And a wireless speaker, so that a student would be joining the class through our Google Meet app that's part of the Google Classroom, and the teacher is able to, again, focus on a specific lesson or demonstration. If there's a presentation of kids, the camera can be turned to the kids presenting, so the person at home can be engaged in the discussion. If there's a group project, the kids at home would just use their laptops, turn on Google Meet and headphones, and be able to virtually be a part of that opportunity. So, you know, we're super excited to work together with our teachers to move forward with this opportunity to engage our at-home kids with real-time learning. We hope to have some exciting updates for you by our next board meeting.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And just to conclude,
any questions on that?
Any questions from trustees on Chris's report on the remote learning? Chris, some of the technology and techniques that you mentioned, are they currently being used, or are they in progress for implementation?
So I'd like to share that we have a number of teachers prior to this initiative moving forward who have already, with their comfort level with technology, have already offered these opportunities for kids. So that's really important that this isn't, again, anything that I started. We had some teachers ready to go from the start. And now we're want to roll this out for an opportunity for all of our kids and to support teachers in doing that. I will share, as always, one of our amazing tech leaders in our district, Henry Verbeek over at Howe Sound. I know has been having a good time playing with all of this equipment. So hopefully, again, in future, we'll have a demonstration for you as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from trustees for Chris? All right, Mo, continue.
Okay, thank you. So just the last part about the COVID update, it's student projections for next year, and we're going to get into this a little bit later on in the agenda. But what we're doing is by we, I mean our principals and senior staff, etc. We're continuing to forecast school enrollment, including online school projections for next year. Some of the analytical tools we're using to help with this include obviously our local school-based projections, surveys that are being sent out to online parents, and then also Behringer projections. And hopefully we'll have more details in regards to COVID in particular and what the projections are turning out to be for online school versus our brick and mortar schools in probably next month and the following month, so March and April.
Thanks, Mo. Anything else, Mo, on COVID-19 update?
No, that's about it.
Okay, then the next agenda item is Squamish catchment area update. That's also you.
Okay, this is just an update. So this is not a significant milestone for the board. Where are we at? So in the document that I shared with the board and for the public, it's on our agenda. I'm just going to share it too right now. So anything in green, I know it's a hard, difficult font or difficult color to view, and we'll probably change this color, but anything green, it's kind of a go. We've already done it. So we've completed building the methodology, obviously in collaboration with the board. We've completed a significant portion of our stakeholder consultation planning and stakeholder consultation. That includes meeting with our PACs and staff in Squamish Elementary, Mamquam Elementary, and Brackendale Elementary. We have sent out newspaper advertisements about a survey that's active right now for parents and parents that would be impacted by any potential catchment area change in September 2023 for them to fill out, for the board to have as much information as they need when it comes to decision making. And we're continuing to work on a town hall that we're planning for March 2021. And I think the exact dates for the town hall is March 17th, 2021 at 5:00 p.m. Okay, so we have done majority of our consultation, and I'm just kind of updating the board on what are the next steps. So that means the survey needs to be completed still and analyzed. We need to present the survey results to the board and also talk to the community about what are some of the key themes potentially coming out of that survey. And then just kind of for the board, what's your deliverable? It's the June 2021 board meeting where the board will make a recommendation on any catchment area changes.
Okay, any questions for Mo on that catchment area update? Thanks, Mo. Hearing none, let's move down to enrollment projections.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Okay, so I want to just start off with what is our enrollment projections? Why are we doing it so soon? So obviously we're doing our budget development process right now, and a key part of our budget development process is our enrollment projections. And essentially, the starting of that is, even though we're months ahead before the new school year, we need a starting point. And basically, not only do we need a starting point for estimating, whether it's our, how many, what's our enrollment going to be, what's the incremental effect when it comes to funding, is there any massive changes coming in? We are also required to submit it to the ministry. And then also, this is used as a starting point for the schools to start their planning and what their schools will look like for next year in February, starting in February, and then kind of progressing as they get more information about enrollment. And then tuning that as the board basically progresses through the budget development process. So with that said, the attached document shows a quick snapshot of where are we at today when it comes to enrollment projections. So I'm just going to really quickly share my screen, because I know it's a lot of numbers. Okay, so this column right over here on your far left-hand side. So number one, what we're doing is we're breaking it down by community. So Pemberton, Whistler, and Squamish. And within the communities, we're breaking it down by each school. Okay, so this column right over here, this entire section is your estimated funded headcount projections to actuals. And this one is your funded projections. So that's how many FTE, which is our main driver of our funding. Okay, so the 1701, what does that mean? That's our current year projections as of September 30th. So when we really look at this, and I'm not going to skim over all the schools because I'm hoping the trustees and the board have had a chance to review this information. But just going to the bottom line, in September 30th, 2020, so this school year, we had 5,085 headcount students. And obviously that includes 86 online students as well, okay? Going into what our projections are when it comes to our service provider that we use to help us determine what our long-term and short-term projections will be going into the next 1 to 10 10 years. They're saying that they're predicting us to be at 5,265 headcount students. We sent out information to our schools to see if they could help us true this Berger projection up. And in blue, it's the headcount projections that the schools are reporting back. So basically, it's overall it's 50 less kids, but in reality, it's still more kids compared to last year. So it's still showing that we're growing, and they're reporting 5,215 headcount kids. And note that our schools are typically pretty conservative as we are with our budgeting going into the spring, especially this early on. Okay, so when we really look into the far right-hand column, now basically what this is doing is obviously our head count to our FTE ratio is the same for all of our elementary schools and our middle school. However, for our high schools, so that's Pemberton Secondary, Whistler Secondary, and Howe Sound Secondary. Obviously, if kids take more than 8 courses, then essentially it results in a higher FTE, which is kind of pretty typical in our district. So what this is showing is by taking the Berger FTE projections and plugging into the columns for basically for the high schools under this funded FTE projections, we come up with basically what we're anticipating when it comes to our funded FTE. However, one thing the board will notice right away is there is a bit of a discrepancy between your online students in the funded FTE compared to what our schools are saying and compared to what Berger is saying. So that's kind of the driving variable behind where are the changes coming from when it comes to right now the head count and the funded FTE. Typically speaking, this would be higher in every single category compared to the head count, including online. So I think what I'm getting at is we still need to true up online. And obviously, the driving factor there would be, how many parents are going to be staying in online next year that are in online this year. And just some assumptions that we made were that these projections right now, they do not have any international students, where our preliminary projections are 128 international students for 21-22. So obviously this number would go up once we put those 128 kids in there. So with that said, before I conclude it, I just want to pass it on to Paul or Lisa. If you guys have any comments or clarification, that'll be great. But just as part of this process, just to let you know, Paul would come back with a lot more details in this as soon as we have more definitive numbers in March and in April.
I'm good.
Nothing from you other folks?
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Rick.
Okay. Any questions from trustees?
No.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to just interrupt.
Actually, sorry,
Yeah.
Rick, I do have a question, actually.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I was just looking at what's the difference between homeschoolers and online? Or is there a difference?
Yes, so a homeschool child is a child whose family does their schooling at home, and online students are children who are learning at home, but through an online BC Education teacher.
Okay,
Online.
so during COVID, I know of several students or parents who don't want to send their children to school. So are they considered online or homeschoolers?
It depends how they registered. If they want to do their own curriculum and run their own program without a BC teacher attached, then they would do homeschooling. If they would like to be connected through the Google Classroom or Moodle in the grad program, to take courses and have teacher support and learning support and all of the normal things, but doing it from a distance, then they would register for online.
Okay, I understand the difference now. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Okay. Just before I move on, I'm just going to remind anybody who's out in the audience watching this with any questions. I made these remarks at the beginning of the meeting, but just in case you weren't there, we do take questions of clarification at the end of the meeting. They should be related to an agenda item. So if you send in your question by email to our Secretary Treasurer, Mohammed Azim, I think you have a link to do that. Please try to reference the agenda item that your question refers to. And please be as clear and succinct as you can, just so that we can give you a great answer. As far as questions, if any questions crop up that don't pertain to the agenda, we're happy to receive those questions. We probably won't answer them tonight, but we're happy to receive them and get back to you. So with that having been said, let's keep moving down through the agenda, and that takes us to school alignment meetings.
Okay, thank you, Rick. And Lisa, feel free to interject with this one when you need to provide clarification. So I think a lot of, if there's any public out there and maybe even some of the trustees, because we only go through this in a couple of phases in the year, one will be clarification of what is it. So we basically do school alignment meetings to ensure that the different components of the school plan is aligning not only with the district education plan, but with the Ministry of Education, including the framework for enhancing student learning, the policy for student success, obviously the district education plan I already mentioned, and related board policies. And then we do it to make sure that our local decision-making, because we're site-based budgeting organization, so it means that there's a lot of empowerment and local decision-making on a school end and a local department end. We also not only want the alignment with the bigger pieces that I was talking about, but we also want alignment with the British Columbia Treasury Board and Finance health guidelines, the Truth and Reconciliation, okay, so the on-drip, and then also basically the overall our budget bylaw, because of all of these decisions, if it's related to the budget, would eventually consolidate into the budget and will be the part of the budget bylaw. So with that said, how do schools get this done? So from February 24th to March 5th, and then subsequent to that, I think in April, we originally have initial alignment meetings for the planning, and then going into the April one, we have follow-up alignment meetings for any tune-ups and any recommendations. And basically what the concept here is that in a bunch of different sections I'll go over very high level, our school principals come and meet with various staff in our organization in head office, and that's anywhere from our senior leaders to our facility leaders to our accounting team to human resources to IT, etc. And they go over what their school plan looks like very thoroughly when it comes to alignment with all those things I'm talking about. And in particular, they go over things like going over the school learning plan, their enrollment projections, the learning services plan, school configurations, staffing plans, facility plans, essentially what their funding would look like, and any questions when it comes to their funding on a school level, significant projects and resources coming up from a school level end. And then obviously go into some of the budget details about going and talking about what their budget looks like, etc., and what some of the next steps are after that. So all of these things, even though they're not, a lot of them aren't directly related to the budget, but in reality, this is a good opportunity and a key opportunity that we take to ensure that every component of a school plan, just like our service plans for things like IT and facilities, are aligned with all those things, the bigger picture that I was talking about, and the bigger driver being the education plan. Lisa, do you?
No, I think it's the road to everything that keeps the schools aligned, and following the framework for enhancing student learning policy from the government, and following all of the accounting principles, and following all of the variety of best practices. And so these are very lengthy, detailed meetings, but they keep us on track, and it's a very significant part of your budget development process as well.
Okay. Any questions for Mo or Lisa on alignment? Okay, we're down to Paul Lorette, Brookings Research and Survey.
Okay, so this is a quick update. You may recall back in the early fall in September, we engaged in a parent survey with the Brookings Institute and circulated a survey to our parents just to assist with some work being done on looking at parent engagement. And I think it was also related to kind of the COVID times. So we did that and we had a good response, and we've been asked to expand that a little bit and provide a survey to our teachers. So we're just letting you know that we have agreed to provide that survey to our teacher staff. It's supported by the SSTA, and we'll be engaging in well, I guess quite an early call with a number of stakeholders in this research. Next week, we are engaging with some educators from all over the world. It's kind of a cool opportunity, including some teachers in Ghana, South America. Gosh, I mean, I could go on. So it is a cool opportunity to just talk about practice. We've actually been asked to present a little bit on our education plan, so we're looking forward to that. And that is the update.
All right, let's see if there's any questions for Paul on that.
Will the results be presented to us, Paul?
Yeah, so we don't actually have all the results yet, but in one recent communication I had from them, they did say that they would be providing us with those results. So once we have them, we'd be happy to share them.
Thanks very much. Anything else from trustees? Okay, Paul, thank you.
I'm just surprised you didn't ask what time of day we would get on a call that would include the entire world.
Yeah, we'd probably have the technology, I'm sure. Okay, that takes us down through attachments. You see the field trip attachments and the media report. Any questions on those? Pausing briefly. No, no correspondence, no items for discussion, but we do have some motions. So the first one is 702 student fees and deposits. This came out of the Finance Committee meeting today, and someone prepared to make that motion.
That the Board of Education approve the amended policy 702 student fees and deposits.
Thank you. Seconder for that?
Rebecca?
Okay, thank you very much, Rebecca. And any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none. Any opposed to the motion? All right, that's carried. Next, we have a policies review recommendation on school district land uses. Someone prepared to make that motion?
I can do that one if you'd like.
Thank you.
That the Board of Education approve policies 705, security of school district assets, 903, community partnership corporate sponsorships, 904, land use near schools, and 905, use of school facilities, buildings, and grounds as presented.
Thank you so much. And is there a seconder for that?
And Rebecca again?
Thanks, Rebecca. Any discussion on that? Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, that's carried. And that takes us down to the Board of Education evaluation. We have a recommended motion for that one too.
That the Board of Education, sorry, let me try again. That the Board of Education evaluation plan be adopted as presented.
It just occurs to me now that you're making that motion that we've had that presented at the committee of the whole, but not at the public meeting. Mo, did you want to make any quick remarks on that just for the sake of the public?
Yeah, sure. So just to start off with, we aligned this this evaluation. When it comes to our planning, or the board aligned it with policy 212 evaluation of the Board of Education, including the deliverables that are set out on the purpose of an evaluation of the Board of Education in section 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 of policy 212. And then what we did was we just went over a quick timeline with the board, including having self-assessments, having the board evaluation through once again a matrix that's used in that policy that I just talked about, policy 212, followed by having interviews being conducted by both myself and our Director of Instruction, Human Resources, to the presidents of our various partner groups and right holders, and basically having surveys released, which there's a copy of the survey in the agenda, to our various partner groups and right holders, but to their executive. So it's more than just their president. Then followed by basically getting all the facts, because just to clarify, it's Dave and I will just be going over collecting and collating the facts, and possibly putting it into themes, so it's organized, and that's it. And then going back to the board, so the board can start to do their decision-making and planning when it comes to what's the outcome of the evaluation, what are some of the recommendations that are going to be, starting all the way in April with the final draft evaluation taking place in June. So it's going to be a very collaborative process, and it's going to be very hands-on process for the board. And there's going to be a number of meetings where the board will have an opportunity to evolve that evaluation plan.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mo. So with that in mind, the motion, I believe the motion was made. I lost track of that though. Cynthia, you made the motion, right?
Rebecca.
Oh, Rebecca made the motion.
Yep, but I'm happy to second the motion if you would
Thank
like.
you very much. And any discussion on that motion? Okay, anybody opposed? Thank you very much. Moving down the agenda, item F, items brought out of camera. We don't have any, but we do have the amended budget bylaw to read. And do we have a volunteer to do these
I
motions?
can do that.
Yeah, thank you. I was hoping you would say yes.
Just go for it.
Yep.
Alrighty, so that the Board of Education unanimously agree to waive the requirement that first, second, and third reading of the school district number 48, Sea to Sky, amended annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year 2020-2021 be given on different dates.
Okay, that's the first of those motions. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Ian. Any discussion? Any opposed? Thank you very much. Then there's the amended budget, annual budget bylaw.
Okay, so we read that whole
Yeah, you got to do the whole thing.
piece.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just trying to, it doesn't make sense, but that's fine. Amended annual budget bylaw. The bylaw of the Board of Education of School District number 48, Sea to Sky, called the board, to adopt the amended annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2020-2021 pursuant to section 113 of the School Act, RSBC 1996 C412, as amended from time to time, called the Act. Number one, the board has complied with the provisions of the Act respecting the amended annual budget adopted by this bylaw. Two, this bylaw may be cited as School District number 48, Sea to Sky, amended annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2020-2021. The attached statement 2, showing the estimated revenues and the estimated expenditures for the 2020-2021 fiscal year and the total budget bylaw amount of $72,892,080 for the 2020-2021 fiscal year was prepared in accordance with the Act. Number 4, Statement 2, Statement 4, and Schedules 1 to 4 are adopted as the amended annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Read a first time the 9th day of December 2020. Read a second time the 10th day of February 2021. Read a third time, passed and adopted the 10th day of February 2021.
Nicely done. Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Cynthia is happy to second.
Thank you so much. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Just one point.
Yes.
And I must, maybe I don't know if I'm not understanding it, but didn't the previous motion say we're waiving first, second, and third reading, yet we're named dates that we read, the first, second, and third? Or am I missing something here?
I think what's happened is that waiver is probably required because we're doing the second and the third reading on the same date.
Oh, okay.
Am I right about that, Mo?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Rebecca?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, good.
It's
So
it's just misleading. Like, it's like we did it all today, but we didn't do it all today.
Yeah, we did the
So-
first reading on the 9th of December.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see that. Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, anybody opposed? Thank you, that's carried.
Hey, you want this last motion?
Yes, please.
I'm on a roll now.
I know.
Just keep going.
That the Board of Education approves school district number 48, Sea to Sky, amended annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year 2020-2021 as presented.
Thank you, seconder for that. Thank you, Ian. Any discussion? Anybody opposed? Okay, that's carried. We're down to questions of clarification from the public, so I'm going to ask Mo if we have any questions.
I'm just reviewing my emails right now in the board inbox. I have nothing. I have no questions.
Okay.
Archie, did you want to double check? Yeah, no questions? Okay.
Wait, well, Archie checks.
No, she's checked.
All right. We have conducted the business of this meeting, and so if I hear no objections, and I'm pausing for objections to adjournment, anybody? All right, in that case, I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned, and I'm going to thank everybody, staff and trustees alike, for a good day of meetings.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.